Okay. There we go. Everybody see slides?
Yep.
Okay. So this is going to be somewhat of a more technical than normal training that I do, which is kind of funny because I'm not really into the technical. I'm actually very tech oriented, but teaching details is not my strong suit. But today we're going to talk about dominating the news feed. And actually what I'm going to try to do is clear up some of the terms that you've heard probably about how to dominate the news feed, which we'll get into, so that you understand what each of them is and how they work together. However, before we get to that point, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And so I'm going to kind of teach some of the foundational stuff just to make sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. So I'm Cortney Jones. I'm one of the coaches here at Bliss. If we don't know each other, actually so far, it's all my coaching clients that are on the call. So, and one of our other coaches. So welcome everyone. But we're going to talk a little bit today about being everywhere and becoming familiar. That's really what it means to dominate the newsfeed, right? We want to be seen by everybody and have them think that we're everywhere and that we're doing a lot. Not by lying, but just by being everywhere. Okay. So familiarity in marketing is mostly about positive repetition, because the more times someone sees something, the more likely they are to resonate with it, connect with it, trust it, and eventually choose it. It's why you'll see a lot of companies, like say around Super Bowl time, they spend, millions of dollars for a 30-second ad at the Super Bowl. But you'll notice that a lot of times you will have never heard of that company before, or they're not a household name. But right before they spend that money for that Super Bowl ad, they'll be in your TV commercials a lot before and just after. And it's because they want to get the most bang for their buck. So it's better to become familiar for a short period of time and become kind of a household name quickly than it is to spend that same amount of money and dribble things out for 4 or 5 years. So if you think back to things like Super Bowl commercials or things, you can think of a lot of companies where that's happened. I remember when Chewy first came on the scene, nobody had ever heard of it. They spent like $4 million for their Super Bowl commercial. Then you started seeing their commercials everywhere. Now everyone knows who Chewy is, the pet delivery people, now they're everywhere. So because they did that big blast and became so familiar so quickly, they're able to kind of back off a little bit and not spend as much money on marketing. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about. So there's 4 stages marketing experts say to brand awareness. And as a realtor, your brand awareness is you. Now, whether you have a team and that's your brand awareness, or yourself personally, then that's your brand awareness. But the 4 stages are basically recognition, from starting at the bottom, recall, top of mind, and preference. And so what happens is when you are doing things on I call it on a blast, where you're like hitting them on a regular basis in a lot of different areas, then you're going to have more recognition. Through that process, it's hard for me to do this because I talk with my hands, and without you guys being able to see my hands, it's hard for me to think. So through that process, you're going to lose some people, right? You're going to have people, because you're blasting their, maybe hitting them everywhere. You're sending them a lot of texts. You're sending them a lot of emails. You're sending them a newsletter, whatever. They're not interested for whatever reason. Don't take it personal. You're going to lose some people. So that funnel, if you will, is going to get a little smaller to the recall area. These are the people who haven't unsubscribed yet, who are paying attention, or maybe they're deleting you quickly, but it's still sticking. They haven't unsubscribed and asked you to stop sending them things. Then the next phase, as you continue to become more and more familiar and hitting their box in a regular basis, is that you become more top of mind. You've given them some value. You've shown them a lot of things that are of interest to them. They're continuing to stay on with you. And so you're more top of mind. And then the next level is preference. It's like now they wouldn't think of doing business with anyone but you. Okay. So part of why you may lose them between recognition and recall and top of mind is, as we all know, most everybody knows 4, 5, 6, they say the average number is 7 to 9 other realtors. Well, if I'm married to a realtor, as an example, and you happen to mail to me, I have no interest, right? I'm obviously, if I'm going to do business, I'm going to do business with my husband or whatever. So you haven't done anything wrong by approaching me, by sending me your postcard or sticking your Facebook ad in my feed or any of those things, but I'm not going to be interested. So along those ways, you might lose some people. Maybe I live in my house. I absolutely love my house. I have no intentions of ever selling my house. I'm going to die in this house. Then I'm probably not going to pay a whole lot of attention. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with you and your marketing message to me. Just not, it's not something that I have any interest in. So it's not going to sit or resonate with me. But these are the ways in which we start to get to the point through dominating someone's newsfeed. Being in their face all the time is another way of saying that, to become that preference for them. Okay. As we begin to establish relationship with them and we become more familiar to them, we're providing good value, we're providing good content and information, we're more likely to be their preference. Okay. Thinking of it the other way around, if you think about this is how marketing typically works, is through a funnel. Okay. So if you were to hire somebody, I'm going to move this out of the way, hire somebody to do your marketing for you, then they're going to talk to you about a marketing funnel. This is basically the same thing I just showed you, but it's inverted. Okay. So same thing, you're putting a lot of people in the beginning. As an example, let's say you go to one of our title company partners and you get a farm that you want to start to, market to. That might be 1,000 households. Okay. You might narrow that down to those most likely to sell. Okay. So you might have started with 1,000 households. So you're putting that 1,000 people into the top of that funnel. And then you find out that there's an option to be able to narrow that down to people that are most likely to sell. Okay, so you're shaking those people through, if you will, through the funnel and squeezing those people that are most likely to be clients down towards the bottom. And so if you're then, say you get a list, that same list, that farm list, but now there's only 250 that are most likely to sell anytime soon. Okay, you might hit those people on a regular basis with a marketing message over and over and over again, becoming more familiar to them, and then somebody that they would be more likely to consider working with. Now you're more familiar to them. You seem like you're the neighborhood specialist. You keep telling them you're the neighborhood specialist, and after a few times, they're starting to believe, hey, this person's a neighborhood specialist, because they see it on a regular basis. Again, if you think about yourself in marketing that you've received, whether from a realtor or somebody else, you can probably think of instances where that's been the case. Okay. So that's what that's what a typical marketing funnel looks like. And what you're trying to accomplish is to get people pushed through down to that bottom where they have loyalty and they wouldn't dream of doing business with anybody else. Now, conversion phase is still very important. And even before you get to loyalty, you will get a lot of business in that conversion phase and even in that consideration phase, depending on the situation. Okay. Sometimes, like in my world, I deal with a lot of investment properties and a lot of people who are going through foreclosure. As an example, a lot of those people don't want to call a realtor that they know to help them because they don't want to admit that they're going through foreclosure. Okay, so they'll call somebody that they don't know specifically because they don't want their dirty laundry aired. Okay, so there will be times when you'll get business from people, even in that consideration and conversion phase, if you're providing value and helping them, and they feel like you seem like an interesting person that's not going to take advantage of them. Okay, so again, your message has to be right for them. So providing value, I'm not going to go into this a ton because I did this in April, but if you don't know how to provide value to people and make them get a lot of good content from you, help kind of establish credibility and rapport with people, I encourage you to watch my training from April 23rd. It is in Suite Assist. It's called See How to Build Rapport and Establish Credibility. And I go into a lot more detail on how to provide value at that. But to make sure we're all on the same page for this training, I want to just talk for a minute about what is value. So value is basically helpful information, useful resources, and tools or referrals that can help your prospect. Okay. So you have to kind of think of things from their perspective in the sense of what, if I were in this person's situation, what would I need to feel more comfortable and knowledgeable about being able to move forward? Okay. So whatever that is, for me, oftentimes that's a person that's going through foreclosure, Or for my exit strategy for my properties is selling to people on a lease option that do not have credit or money. I mean, they have some money, but, and so they need to learn how to build their credit. So my message is all around that. Like I have to put myself in their position. So in your case, what you want to think about is, who is my ideal client? Who am I marketing this message to? Who are they? What are their problems? And what resources or help or knowledge do they need to become a better consumer? Okay. So today, in today's world, we have so many ways to be able to go out, like say to Google reviews or Yelp reviews or this or that, to find out, are other people happy with this service? We can do a quick search to see, what does that company do? What is it? Well, it's the same type of thing. You need to think about being in that person's shoes and wearing their shoes. What struggles are they having? What issues are they concerned with? What information do they need? What things are not taught in school 101 that they would have no idea of, that they maybe need to know? It gets a little difficult sometimes, because especially when you do know, it's hard to imagine others don't know. But it's sort of like, using real estate terminology when you're having a conversation with somebody that's a first-time home buyer. I always say, be really careful of the words that you use, because people will throw around words like closing and escrow, and first-time home buyers are like, you're speaking a foreign language to me. I don't even know what that means. Like, so you have to be real careful of the language that you use. It's the same thing when you're kind of creating your marketing message, thinking about where your person's coming from, what their concerns are. How do you pivot in a way that makes you look at things from a blank space like they would be at? So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. Here's a few examples. So a free download marketing plan sample, how to know what your house is worth. Okay, that would be something of value to somebody who's going to be selling their house or thinking about selling their house. They want to know what their house is worth, and they want to know what kind of marketing is going to be done or should be done. Maybe they're thinking about doing a for sale by owner, or maybe they are a for sale by owner. That top one would be a good ad to get into their face to say, hey, here's a marketing plan sample I'm going to help you with. And by the way, what is your home worth? Okay, so that's a value add to them. That's information they would want. For foreclosure lists, that might be somebody that's an investor. It also might be somebody who maybe is a buyer who just wants to get their hands dirty and fix up a foreclosure. They want a deal. They're that person who, I don't want to buy something that's fixed up and wonderful. I want to buy something that needs some work and get a good deal on it, because I feel like there's some value in that. So that might be a value add type of thing that you could present to that type of a buyer. Okay. 5 mistakes home sellers make that keep them from getting top dollar for their home. Okay. These are all kind of just simple samples. I just threw them up here. These graphics, I just literally grabbed the first thing on Canva. So I would not recommend copying these. I don't think they look good at all. I just wanted to give you some samples of what is value so that you could see. When you're thinking of your buyer, let's say as an example, your major group that you want to target is empty nesters. Empty nesters might be, your marketing piece might be something like, how do you buy a house while living in a house? How do you make that happen? Which should I do first? Okay. So that might be a 1-page document that you write up and create and make pretty, that you make available to people so that they understand, hey, how does this work? How do I buy a house without selling my house? Or should I sell my house first? Type of thing. Okay. So those are all different kind of marketing ideas and providing value for people. The main thing you want to do when you're focusing on marketing aspects of things is always keep in mind WIFM. I remember this from my ASU days way back in the 80s and when I was a marketing student at ASU, and it is still true today. The number one question your marketing should be answering is WIFM. What's in it for me? A lot of times realtors are literally the worst at this. I will say a lot of times you will see realtor ads and it's, I'm a top producer and I sold 500 houses last year and I this and I that. They don't care. And they really, really, really don't care how great you think you are. In fact, it turns a lot of people off. What they care about is, can you solve their problem? So you have to write your marketing from the perspective of what's in it for me. And by that, I mean your customer, okay? Not for you as the agent. So you need to think of your customer and think about, you have to write things from their perspective. What is going to be helping them? So instead of, let's say as an example, instead of I've been the top agent for 3 years, I sold 500 homes, I did this, I did that. You're targeting, let's say agents or investors. Your message might be how to find foreclosures quickly every day, how to have foreclosures delivered to your inbox every morning, how to wake up with an inbox full of foreclosure deals. Okay. That type of thing. Okay. So your message to them is, how are you solving their problem? What is in it for them? What kind of results are you going to be providing for them? With a seller, it might be something like how to get top dollar. 3 changes you can make to your house to ensure you get top dollar when selling your home. Okay. So that's a marketing message people care about. That's a marketing message they're going to go, oh, that's interesting to me. Now, not if they're not selling their home. Okay. So what you're doing is you're eliminating some of the noise of getting 20 people that might be calling you or talking to you or flooding your inbox or whatever. And you're narrowing it to the specific group of people that you want to work with and help. But always remember what's in it for you. As realtors, we tend to think we have to come forward with how great we are, what our sales stats are, how much we've accomplished, and so forth. Rarely, rarely, rarely do people care about that. In fact, in all the listing presentations I've been on in my entire life, I think I've maybe had 3 people ever ask me how many homes I sold or how long I've been doing this or any of that. It just really doesn't come up if you've come out competent and you're sharing good information with them. It's just not something that they're going to typically ask. Now, I will say that there are a lot more resources online today that say things like 10 questions you should ask realtors when you're interviewing them and things like that. So if you do get that, if kind of a client who's gone and researched that stuff, you might get it a little bit more often today. But in general, if you're presenting yourself with confidence and you're answering the question of what's in it for them, you won't run up against that kind of stuff. They won't even ask if you're new or if you've ever done a deal. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't ever happen, but it's really, really extremely rare. Okay, so I don't know, this thing's always in my way. Hold on. There we go. Let's talk about details of how to be everywhere and become familiar. I want to explain all of these because they all kind of work in conjunction with each other. And so this is basically the core of this presentation, these few things, okay? So I want to make sure that you understand all of them, how they're all slightly different and how they're used together, okay? So I am, for all of my coaching students, they've heard me say this a million times, I am all about a multi-pronged approach to hitting people with a message. Okay. And what that means is I want to squeeze every last penny that I possibly can out of every lead that I get. And so that lead may be a list that I buy. Okay. I might go buy a list of for sale by owners as an example. Okay. And I'm going to work that list of for sale by owners. Well, I'm not just going to call them once and then be done with it. I'm going to have a plan in place to call them every couple of days for a few weeks. And I'm going to have a plan in place to drop them off some useful information that could be helpful to them. Maybe an RPR report, maybe a property disclosure that they could use. Hey, did you know you needed to have this? All that kind of stuff. Okay. So I'm going to do multiple things like that. I'm also going to hit them with direct mail. So I've got the lead. Here's the thing with marketing. You don't know how somebody wants to consume information. You don't know how they best receive information. Some people stand over their mailbox over a trash can and drop their mail in it as it comes in and never see anything that comes in the mail. Okay. Other people sit down once a week and go through their pile and use that as their quiet time to unwind and go through their mail and find it, enjoyable to look at things. And that's how they might see your message for the first time. Other people like myself check their mail once a month. And so if you're sending a timely message, it might not get looked at in a timely manner because they only check their mail once a month because everything comes online. But everybody is different. So that's why I use this multi-pronged approach, because I don't know how they're going to be receiving this. Same thing with communication styles, email versus text versus voice messages, etc. My daughter has probably 200 unread texts on her phone right now. That would absolutely drive me crazy to have that little red bubble with the number 200 in it. I would be hyperventilating. Okay. I go through my texts like every hour and make sure that everything is addressed and taken care of. But she doesn't pay attention to texts. She doesn't pay attention to email either. So I'm not quite sure how the younger generation gets information, but it's just everybody is slightly different. Okay. So for some people, it's going to be the message that you leave that gets through. For some people, it's going to be the direct mail piece that you send them. For some people, it's going to be the door hanger you hang on their doorknob. For some other people, that doorknob thing will sit there for 3 months. It just depends, which is why you kind of have to employ this multi-pronged approach. Retargeting is this. I buy a list of for sale by owners. And what I do is I take that list of for sale by owners and I send it to my VA, and we start a campaign that is a texting campaign to the people who are not on the do not call list. Okay. For now, that'll change soon, but for now, that's our campaign. Okay. So a texting campaign starts. Then she takes that list and she uploads it to Facebook in what's called a custom audience, which I'll talk about here in a sec. And we start running ads to that. Okay. Then we create something called a retargeting campaign. A retargeting campaign is basically a pixel that you put on that says everybody that comes to my web page, this web page that I'm advertising, gets a pixel. And that pixel then follows them around the internet. Okay. So have you ever gone and looked for a pair of red shoes, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these red shoes everywhere on the internet? Okay. That's a retargeting campaign. They have a pixel that says, when you go look at this shoe or whatever, then that everywhere you go, you're going to see an ad for that shoe. Okay. That's a retargeting campaign. So that's what I do when they come to my website, or they see my ad, or they look at my Facebook page, or any of a number of things, then a retargeting campaign is started. And so now they're going to see my stuff everywhere. Okay. So I'm becoming more and more familiar, because we know that it takes 8 to 12 contacts and immediate seeing people for them to become familiar with us. All of a sudden now they see my face. Hey, I buy houses, or whatever message I tend to be sending out there. They're seeing that everywhere and anywhere that they go. Okay, that's what a retargeting campaign is. So it's a pixel that gets put on your website or your ads or wherever you are directing them to. So if you have what's called a splash page, a one-page website put up that says, download my 3 things you could do to your house in 24 hours to get top dollar list. Okay. And you just have a page with, they fill in their name and email, and then they get that list. Okay. Then you can have a retargeting campaign attached to that page. So if they come to that page, now all of a sudden, boom, they're tagged, if you will, with this retargeting pixel, that everywhere they go, they're going to start seeing an ad for that. Three things you can do to your house to get top dollar. 3 things, they go to Amazon to buy something. 3 things you can do to get top dollar. They go to Walmart to order groceries. 3 things you can do to, all of a sudden they're like, man, this Cortney chick's everywhere. Okay. Yes, I am. Okay. So that's what retargeting is, right? Custom audiences is where you take a list that you buy, and then you can market to that list. So that could be a list of your neighborhood, your farm. A lot of people don't know that you can do this. It could be your existing sphere of influence list. So if you have your existing sphere of influence list and you export that to an Excel file, then you can upload that to Facebook and create a custom audience so that your sphere of influence is seeing you everywhere. Okay. So your sphere of influence, obviously your mom and dad and sister and brother see you on a regular basis, but your other sphere of influence people, like past people that you've co-worked with or done deals with in the past in your sales environment, or whatever your situation is, those people may not see you in a while, and you may not be able to reach all of them right away, but you can upload them to a custom audience so that they're seeing whatever ads you want to put out there on Facebook or Instagram. You can do this on YouTube as well. And then they're seeing your ads pop up in a regular basis. So that's a custom audience. You could take people that you're already marketing to, or that you're already trying to get a hold of, get them to notice you and pay attention to you. Okay. That's the same as uploading existing audiences. And then lookalike audiences is slightly different, but same kind of concept. A lookalike audience is where you take all of your, let's say you take your farm, your sphere of influence, and maybe a for sale by owner campaign as an example that you bought. Okay. So you take all of those and you upload them to, I usually start with Facebook because it's the easiest, which is such a joke to say because it's such a pain. But you take them and you put them all into Facebook, and then you say to Facebook basically, hey, analyze this. This is not what you actually say, but you do a few clicks. But what it's saying to them is analyze this and give me a lookalike audience. So what they would do is, let's say those 3 lists equal, let's say 1,500 people. Okay. Then they take those 1,500 people and they find similarities between them. They look for commonality. Are they all say 25 to 35 years old or 55 to 65 years old or whatever? Do a lot of them like swimming in the ocean, and a lot of them like travel and blah, 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 whatever it is, they find all of these kind of commonalities between that audience. And then they go, okay, how many do you want? Here's an extra 1,000 people just like that. Okay. They have similar commonalities, if you will. So that's what a lookalike audience is. And you can run your ads to your existing audiences, your custom audiences, and then you can create ads for a lookalike audience so that you're finding people that are similar. Now, one thing that Facebook used to have that they don't have anymore is the most likely to sell. And I wanted to bring this up because I've been seeing a lot of videos lately that are still talking about this. So there was a big lawsuit with Facebook, and they took this category away. Although there is rumor that it may come back, which would be awesome. But for right now, it's not there, most likely to sell. You used to be able to direct your Facebook ads to people most likely to sell. You can't do it anymore, but you kind of can. There's like a workaround. So Facebook makes their money selling ads, right? Or selling clicks, essentially. So if you're placing ads and you're going into Facebook and you're putting some ad money in there, they want to make you happy, because if you don't have results, you're not going to spend any more money, right? So let's say you do a $500 campaign and you get no results from it, you're probably not going to do it again. But if you do a $500 campaign and you get a few people that you can talk to that look like they might be good prospects, you're likely going to keep that going because you're not stupid, and you know that, okay, each of those is going to turn out to be a $5,000 to $10,000 check or more. So I'm going to spend $500 to have those conversations all day long, right? So what they do is they will feed you leads when you tell them that what you're trying to do is grow your leads. So when you go in to do a Facebook campaign, and I'll show you here in just a second specifically where to go. When you go in to do that, it asks you some questions like, what is the goal you're trying to accomplish with this campaign? When you say generate leads, then they know that what you're trying to do is generate leads. And of course, what they want to do is make you happy. So if you're selling, let's say as an example, your ad is a house, okay, and you're putting up an ad, say you're doing a open house for one of our agents this weekend, and you decide, hey, I'm going to put $50 towards an open house ad to promote this house a little bit. Maybe I'll get some buyers from it. Maybe I'll get some inquiries or whatever. Okay. So you put a picture of this house and you do a Facebook ad to this property saying, come visit my open house, etc. And you tell Facebook, I want to generate leads for this campaign. Then they realize, obviously, because their little algorithms know this is a house and people are clicking on it that are interested in house buying. So now what happens is the new people that it starts to put that ad in front of, because you said you wanted to generate leads, Facebook's algorithm goes to work and they go, oh, they're trying to sell this house. I want to put this ad in front of people who are looking to buy houses. And because they're keeping track of all of everything we do and every click we make and everything we look at, they'll start to put that ad in front of people who are looking to buy houses in Chandler or Gilbert or Phoenix or Avondale or wherever that house happens to be. And so by that, you're still using the same kind of, I don't know, title as the most likely to sell, but Facebook is doing it for you without the fear of the lawsuits that they had before. So that's kind of how the most likely to sell campaign works. So you're telling them that you want to target leads, and then you're putting a specific thing in front of them, like a house, and that will make them kind of raise their hands and put it in front of people who are looking for houses. They pay attention to things like, did these people look for moving trucks? Are they going to the U-Haul website? Are they looking at information from what the cost of living changed from Oregon to Arizona? All of those kinds of things are all kept track of, and they know then, oh, these people are obviously looking to move from Oregon to Arizona. They might be interested in this. Boom. So it pops up in their feed. So they kind of do the work for you, which is kind of cool. Okay, so this is a caveat that this was accurate as of yesterday. I swear every time I figure out how to do Facebook ads, they change them the next day. So I will give you this as kind of an overview, but I'm going to tell you that yours may look slightly different, and that it can change at any time, because I swear it changes every 14 and a half minutes. But here's an example of where you go to do most of this. Okay. So I run a lot of different Facebook pages. So you'll see some different things here, but as an example, up here in the top right-hand corner is where you want to start. Okay. So when you go into Facebook, and I don't do this from Instagram, and I'll explain why, but so you go into your face, and then you go into your Meta Business Suite. Now, for some of you, if you don't have I always get this wrong. Let me make sure I say this the right way. If you don't have a business page, then yours would be called Business Manager. So it's slightly different, but concepts are the same. Okay. And I am not an expert. Like I said, this is one of the most frustrating things in the world to me, which is annoying. Okay. Then when you go into your business suite, you're going to have a drop down if you have more than one page. I have many. So you'll have a drop down here. You'll pick your page. Okay. You can see here, I chose my real estate investing tips page. Okay. So you just go in and pick that page. And then you're going to go into, once you bring that page up, it brings up all your tools. You're going to go into this one, which I believe is called analytics, which is the graph, I guess you call it. And then you'll go into your audiences. Okay. So analytics, I believe it is, and then audiences. And this will be available on the Suite Assist, so you can take a look at these. So then once you go into audiences, you'll go in here to create audiences. And then this is where you will either upload your custom audiences, or you can create lookalike audiences. Okay, so you go in there to do that. And then from there, you run your ad campaigns. Now, anyone who's on this call who is one of my coaching students knows that I don't think that you should be doing this yourself, that this is not something you even really need to know the details of. I actually had to research this yesterday and pull the screenshots for this presentation. I do not do this myself. I have somebody that does that. And for those that are saying, well, sure, when you've been in the business that long, you can afford that. No, you can find somebody on Fiverr to do this for $20. And trust me, it's worth well more than that. Because as I said, it changes all the time, and you could spend hours upon hours upon hours trying to figure out how to do this. You'll figure it out, and then you don't go back for a month, you go to do it again, and it's totally different. Now you're spending hours and hours. Your time will be much more better spent on the phone with potential prospects and thinking up other things, talking to people, having face-to-faces. Let somebody that's an expert at Facebook ads do this kind of concept. I want you to understand it enough to know what things are, so that you can have a conversation with somebody and say, I want to do a retargeting campaign to my custom audience once they've visited my website. Here's 5 things I want to give away on an opt-in page. Can you run me ads for that? And then everybody that comes in, please retarget them and make sure they're seeing my ad at least 6 times, or things like that. Okay. So that you understand the concepts enough to instruct someone else to do it. You don't need to be doing this. It's not a good use of your time. You need to understand the concepts of how and why, so that other people can do this. Okay. Let the experts do their expert work. My basic philosophy about all of this is don't spend money marketing to people without using these additional methods and creating that familiarity and maximizing your return. You're buying that list, or wherever you're getting it from the title company or whatever, squeeze out of that, because we live in a world where there's so many multiple ways to touch people, reach people, and get our message out to people, we have to kind of be different about how we get it out there. We don't know how they want to receive it. And so if you're just taking that list that the title company gives you and you mail them a postcard, great, but you're probably going to have a 0.5% return from that postcard, because that's just the way that direct mail works. But if you send a direct mail postcard out to them and you put your ads on Facebook and you send them some direct messages through Facebook and you have somebody call them or text them, and then you're more likely to squeeze a lot more out of that. So if you could get a 3% return out of that list instead of a 0.5% return, you have done a 6x on your business, which is going to come back and pay you greatly throughout the year. So that is my message. If you have any questions, if you don't understand any of this, don't reach out to me. Find an ad expert. But I'm happy to try to walk. If you have a question about the concepts of it, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about it. If you get onto your business suite and you can't find things, I am not your girl. But this is my QR code. If you need to reach me for any reason whatsoever, you can find me here. And I'm happy to open it up for questions, as long as they're not specifics.
Courtney, I have a question. How do you set up the retargeting pixel? Is it something someone has to do for you?
Yeah, so your web designer has to do that for you, or a good Facebook ad person can do it. Now, you may find somebody on Fiverr to do that. I have found somebody to do that in the past, but you have to kind of be real specific. So when you're hiring someone on Fiverr, most of the time, they are people in other countries and there is a little bit of a language barrier. So you need to be very specific about the job that you're hiring them for and very specific about the details and what your outcome is. And so one of the things I would put in my outcome is that I am looking for somebody who can also create the pixel for a retargeting campaign. And if they can't do that, 95% of them will be good at saying, I can't do that, but they'll refer you to somebody that can. And then some people will just have it right in their ad. They do it, so you'll know right away.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
What
oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll ask after you.
No. Oh, okay. So when you're doing these targeting ads, about how much do you use is like an average that you would spend doing them?
It depends. So what I typically tend to do is spend about $20 a day for the first couple of days. And then after like say 5 days, you can take a look at it and see what's working and what isn't. One thing about Facebook is they have incredible metrics where they'll tell you everything. You can even then, I didn't mention this, but you can even then do a retargeting to the people who saw your ad and maybe clicked on it, but didn't do anything. So that can be a different group. Or you could say, hey, send this video to all the people who clicked on my ad, but didn't move forward. So you can do a lot of things like that. So you can actually retarget the retargeteds, which is kind of interesting. But I'll start typically with about a $20 a day. And then I'll look to see, am I getting the results that I want? And is it worth continuing? And then do I want to increase it or decrease it? So it kind of just depends on the campaign. If I'm doing a campaign that's blowing my phone up, like for me, I do a lot of investor campaigns to like foreclosures and stuff. So if all of a sudden my phone hasn't stopped ringing and I'm exhausted, I might take it back, which I know sounds weird, but it's like, okay, this is actually working, but I don't need $20 a day at it. $5 will cut it. If I'm driving traffic to a web page to fill out a form to get the 3 things that are going to make you sell your house faster, I don't care necessarily about that because that's not taking my personal time. I might look at it and go, okay, that's costing me $1 a click as an example, or 50 cents a click. I got 20 new leads from that. So far, nobody's called me. I want to get that to, let's say 100 to see the real numbers, to see, you need to know what the clicks are, the click-through rate. And then you need to know out of those, what's it take for people to call me or come and do business with me, right? So I need to get that number high enough to see what that is. So then I might look at that and go, okay, I'm okay with those numbers. I'm going to actually increase this to 50 a day. So maybe then I can see you're only doing it for a couple of days. And then you can, what's nice about it is you can always go in and pause it whenever you want. So I usually kind of start at $20 a day, but I'm usually tweaking it throughout.
Okay, great. Thanks, Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question. What are some information you need to put on the Excel sheet to upload to the Facebook?
So you need their name, obviously. And I like to do the name in 2 separate columns, first name and last name.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I do that is because occasionally I will run ads where or more likely it's a postcard that I'm going to send out. But I'm using the same list where I'll say, hey, Yelena, you know, I'll be in your neighborhood kind of thing. So I always like to have that first name, last name. The only thing you actually have to have for Facebook is the email address, because that's how Facebook keeps track of people, right? And just an FYI, if you upload a list of, let's say, 1,000 email addresses from your sphere of influence, as an example, that might only find 700 of those people, because 300 of those people have 5 emails, and the one you uploaded is not the same one that they have on attached to their Facebook account. So you're not gonna, it's not 100% accurate. I will say that Facebook has gotten super, super sly lately, and somehow I've noticed in my last probably 6 months, they're doing some sort of like almost like a skip trace type of thing, where like if I have one address that I'm with Facebook ads, somehow they know my other 9 email addresses, and they're putting those things together. I've noticed that probably in the last 6 months, but it's not uncommon to upload a big long list and it only finds like, say, half the people or 3/4.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Do you do anything with Instagram, like as far as ads for Instagram?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. So I don't do any of this as far as inside of Instagram, because I think Instagram is harder to run ads in. It's a lot easier in Facebook ads. But I do have my I can't remember what they call it, something turned on, so that everything I do in Facebook also goes into Instagram. So if I'm spending $20 a day in Facebook, it's doing Instagram and Facebook, and it's putting my ad in front of those people in both, and which is really kind of cool, because that's part of the retargeting campaign. It's like they'll log into Facebook, they see you, and then they log into Instagram, they see you, you know, so it's kind of happening everywhere. So if you have that turned on, and I can't remember what it's called, I'm blanking out, but there is a place when you're going through the ad and setting up your ad, it'll ask you, do you want these to show on Instagram too? And you just toggle it on. Yep.
Great, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, so if you take all of that and put it all together and use those things all in conjunction, then you can certainly dominate people's newsfeed. And as we've learned, dominating their news feeds means that we're familiar, and when we're familiar, we're more friendly and providing value and much more likely to get their loyalty. So combining all of these things together is sure to not only make you more money from your marketing dollars, but make you more loyal customers along the way.
Thank you, Courtney. Great
Yeah,
class.
thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you. That was
Thank you.
awesome.
You are welcome.